Hello and welcome to International Affairs, where we discuss all the global news, headlines and topics. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce all my panelists here today in the studio. We have Brigadier General retired Mr. Shafat Ahmed, who joins us in the studio. And of course, it comes none less to say that on our Zoom connections, we have our geopolitical correspondent, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. And alongside him, we have Mr. Agha Mohammad Saleh, joining us from New York City, who is, of course, former candidacy for governor of New York. I welcome you all to the program here today, but I want to begin with the top news around the globe. Mr. Zoran Mamdani, 34-year-old immigrant of Ugandan and South Asian background, has clamped up to win the New York mayoral election. He's set to take oath January 1st as the first immigrant Muslim background mayor for the city of New York. I want to go to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, D.C. My question to you is, there has been a humongous change in the politics of America, especially with Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani winning this mayoral election. I want to understand how Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes feel about this issue.
In D.C. today. Today is a very historical day in terms of politics, global politics. As we wake up today, this is the 36th day of the shutdown of the government. The president is planning to have a breakfast this morning with the Republicans to discuss a way of getting out of this simply put, mess. As a result of this administration, we had a tremendous turnout in voters yesterday across the country. The Democratic Party had a resounding sweep in New Jersey, Virginia, New York City, and also California. What this means is that the people has now decided they want change. The same reason they brought Trump in, they want change now. This is a sample of what's going to happen in midterm. We're looking at basically a change in how we proceed as a country. Issues like the basic needs of food, water, shelter need to be addressed. And the people are telling the government that we need certain basic things. We also need basic rights. You can't come in and take us out of the buildings and work and housing and tell us what we can and cannot do. This is a prime example of where we are going as a country. The terms is that people want change. There's some people say buyer's remorse. The people who brought Trump in are now considering, and they changed their mind on exactly what's going on. They are figuring out that the rich stand rich and the poor cannot survive. And the poor is saying that we have basic needs and we're not going to let the government tell us what to do. So what you saw in Virginia, we have the first female governor. We have the first lieutenant governor who's a Muslim in Virginia, the first Muslim to be in whole public office. In New Jersey, we have a change. We have a new female governor, again, Democratic Party. And of course, in New York, we have the first Muslim mayor of the largest city in the United States. California, the referendum has been passed to redistrict, which is going to have a profound effect on other states, particularly Virginia. Virginia is now it's a blue state. It's a Democratic state. The House of Delegates also had 13 seats changed to Democrats. This will allow Virginia to also reconsider the redistricting of the state, and is also going to counterattack Trump's attempt to change the number of Congress seats. So a lot of things is happening today. The people are very rejoiced. They feel empowered, enlightened, and ready for change.
Thank you, Mr. Norman Flood Barnes. I understand that you've given us a very nice overview of whatever that's happened regarding the American elections in various cities. I want to connect on Zoom Mr. Aga Mohammed Saleh. He is, of course, he understands and he lives in New York. He understands the requirements of the immigrant population living there. In the winning speech of Zoran Mamdani, he said that this time around, the immigrants had built the city of New York, the immigrants run the city of New York, and finally it is led by an immigrant itself. And some of the things that Zoran Mamdani had promised before winning this election was that he would make sure of affordable housing for all citizens in New York, and of course a free bus service. And one can also mention how he had said that child care has to be given the utmost importance. But before I say anything more, I want to understand how Mr. Aga Mohammed Saleh feels, as he has been living in New York for many decades. Mr. Aga Mohammed Saleh.
Yes, greetings from New York, and it's pleasant to be here on this channel from Bangladesh. What I believe that being an immigrant who came to this country to envision the founding fathers' vision for this nation, and as we call it's a nation of diversity, and especially when we live in New York, we embrace the transnational cultures and faiths, and we live in coexistence. And this experience gives you a very rich experience and gives you an art of living and coexisting among the various nations of the world. And this city also have the capital global headquarter of the United Nations, and this makes it significant. And the city also has the financial capital of the world. This makes city significant. But despite all these things, what I truly believe that having said that Mamdani became the first immigrant South Asian with a diverse heritage. Mother is a Hindu, father is a secular, and he claims himself a Muslim. And it is a unique background that he carries. And before the beginning of his career, he was a rapper, he was an actor. So he has a tremendous ability as a young. And this election runs all the way. When I was looking at this dynamics, it's all Gen Z, Generation Z. And this Generation Z is taking over us. And the entire landscape of the Eastern Hemisphere of the United Nations, Virginia, New Jersey, and New York has been tilted among the Democrats, and President Trump would be facing an immense difficult time in coming midterm election. And the promises which he made, the President Trump, and he became president, became president on a very popular rhetoric. And that popular rhetoric was he will obliterate the deep state. When he opened his bid in the early March, April of the 2023, I realized that this will sweep and change the mind of the landscape of the United States. And I remember that on July 31st, I was the one who predicted, being a Democrat, the President Trump is winning landslide victory. And I tweeted that despite all odds, and it happens. Despite the speculation, despite the polls and legacy media, he fought his battle well based upon the America First narrative. And that America First narrative, which he promised to his people in his first year, during the first year, he is losing this battle at home. New York is his home ground. This is the city where he born and raised, and he made his empire. But in this city, since he became the president, Bill de Blasio, the mayor Bill de Blasio, pushed him in such a way that he refused him to give him the security, and he have to move to his Mar-a-Lago, and he was basically shuttling between Mar-a-Lago and Washington, D.C. in his first term, which ended in 2020 in a very chaotic way.
Yes.
And when he became president in 2024, this term is impacting internationally, and his policies are basically disappointing people. As I remember that when he was running election, his campaign during the November 24, The streets of the city were overwhelming. Even Democrats, even Muslims were supporting him because he wanted to bring peace. But since then, his peace promises in the world are still in shadows, and especially the Gaza factor is in shadows. And so people are unhappy, and especially the Muslim population, which is the overwhelmingly 20% of the New York City. They contribute almost $17 billion, almost 20% of the economy of the New York City. And they are basically being marginalized. And his leadership, which Mamdani claims, he took the ride on it and he defeated all odds. And it's a historic turnover in the election, which I never saw since 1969.
Quite the implications, Mr. Aga Mohammad Saleh. I know that you have been vocal about the administration's policies in the recent years. I want to come back into the studio with General Shafat Ahmed. Of course, he is a veteran scholar and would be avid to comment on this matter. Sir, before Zoran Mamdani won his election, we've seen the rich billionaires such as Elon Musk teaming up with Donald Trump to endorse his competitor Andrew Cuomo, who is, of course, has a scandalous past as running as the governor for New York during the COVID era. But one of the things that Mamdani said is that he will increase 1% in corporate tax for the rich of the New York to understand, to help the society, and will benefit 99 to 100% of the people that are living impoverishedly in New York. So this is quite the big issue. I want to understand from you, over the past couple of months, Washington DC has unleashed its national troops in all 50 states, and it has caused a pandemonium, given that right now the Democratic Socialist leader Zoran Mamdani wins before the upcoming midterm. I want to understand how you see about these affairs in United States of America.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me in this talk show. First of all, congratulations to Mr. Zoran Mamdani for being elected as the mayor of New York City. It's a great pride for him, it's honor for him, and honor for the immigrants who have supported him in a large scale. This shows that the tide is turning. You see, you have to understand one thing, that in USA, the local elections are different from the national election. The reason why Trump won were different from why Mamdani has won. This is a more localized, neo-based problem. But it is, you cannot really isolate now, because what Mr. Trump is doing is trying to engulf the entire USA into a chaotic situation. Some other, what he promised or what he had talked about in the pre-election days, he is not following that.
Right.
He has his own charter or what he wants to fill up. Anyway, now as you said that the rich billionaires all supported, it shows that money doesn't buy everything.
Right.
Because the people of New York, especially the immigrants who are settled there, those people who are living below the certain line, I will not say below poverty line, but then they are living a life which is not suitable for New York. So they had wanted a change, because what has happened in the past is people have talked about change, but in reality nothing has changed for them. So probably the people saw that in Mamdani himself being an immigrant, and he has seen through the troubles that they have to pass through, so they have all voted for him. And I wish all the success for Mr. Mamdani. His journey won't be that simple, because he will have to face a lot of obstacles on the way, because the Republicans and the billionaires will always be opposing him. Like as you said, that he is going to impose 1% extra tax. So that's going to burden the billionaires. Basically, what Trump has done is he has reduced the tax for the rich people, increased the tax on the middle income.
Right.
So whereas Mamdani is going the other round, there's going to be a clash in there. So that's going to be very interesting. But in the long run, probably this is going to affect the entire United States, because people are not taking in good spirit the deployment of the National Guards all over USA, because National Guards or the employment of the forces in US cities had been the last resort. But I don't think the situation had gone to that stage that where there is a requirement for them.
Right.
They are forgetting the purpose of forgetting that probably they are the what do you call their ancestors all immigrant.
Of course,
The
yes.
US
Itself
society
is-
has built on immigrants.
Right. From what I understand is that the first settlements were from immigrants itself.
So they can't throw away the immigrants. It is the immigrants who have raised USA, who has helped build USA. So you can't tell the immigrants to leave now.
Of course, I want to pick out, that was, of course, an excellent observation from Mr. Shafat Ahmed. I want to pick out one of the news that I have from the United States. Of course, it's not related to the elections. However, the U.S. Senate rejected a House-passed Republican funding bill for the 14th time to end the ongoing governmental shutdown. And this is right now the longest in U.S. history at 35 days. And alongside, at least 7 people were killed after a cargo plane crashed near Muhammad Ali International Airport in Louisville, Kentucky, according to Governor Andy Beshear. I want to come to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes. We knew that because of the government shutdown, many TSA agents and air traffic control rooms have been, controllers have been not wanting to come back to work. And there is a very big news regarding almost 7 people that were killed in a cargo plane. I don't want to relate these two news together, but I want to understand how Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes feels about this as it is at 35 days of federal shutdown.
Thank you for the question. The day actually is 36 days, which makes this the longest running shutdown in the U.S. history. Also, regarding the plane crash in Louisville, UPS, everything is relative. The shutdown is restricting the amount of people, particularly in the aircraft industry, the air safety industry, ability to work or desire to work, or even have opportunity to work. It's unique that this incident revolving UPS. The reason is UPS is one of the private industries that has been affected by this shutdown. UPS has laid off 48,000 people. Let me repeat that. 48,000 people as a result of this transition into AI and these government cuts. So these type of situations happen when there's little regards to in terms of employees, safety, and the whole prospect of how we're going to do business today and tomorrow. So it's very unfortunate that 7 people had to lose their lives. There's going to be an investigation on the circumstances, but having 48,000 people lay off cannot help the situation.
Of course, I understand that is a very detrimental issue, but let me ask a question to Agha Mohammad Saleh. We know that the Trump administration is to provide only half of the usual food stamp benefits in November. We know that the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, in other words, SNAP benefits, this time around, including the House, has said that only half of it will be provided in November. I want to understand how you feel about it, as there is a kind of rift between the people and the administration. Mr. Agha Mohammad Saleh.
This will impact almost 6 to 7 million people across the nation. And when I look at the previous administrations, especially the Biden administration's policies, that caused an immense pressure on the economy, and the crises which was developed because of these border crossers, and they're settling in the cities like New York, that was additional pressure on the economy. And today I would say that if these things are not fixed timely, that will create, I believe, a catastrophe, and maybe soon you will be hearing life tolls People may commit suicide, people may die because winter is approaching, and this harsh winter which is predicted, I believe that it will be causing an immense pressure on the landscape of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Aga Mohammad Saleh. Ladies and
May
gentlemen.
I add? Hello?
Yes, Mr. Norman Flood Barnes, please, if you have a comment.
I want to add to that. A little known to people, you must remember the people are sick and tired of the spin. And let me tell you what I mean. The Trump administration has agreed to provide half of what they're supposed to provide. That means, in terms of the Trump administration, several weeks, months, maybe 6 months. So this half we're talking about may not get to the people in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 6 months. So it's a stall tactic. So there have, again, another example of how we disconnect with the basic needs of the people. Yes, they have conceded that they will do as a court order, but the timeliness of it, let's watch and see. So the process right now is going to take some time. So the people who need the care and the food now will not get it.
Thank you so much.
That's what we have to look out for.
Mr. Norman Flood Barnes, thank you so much for the clarification regarding this half of the SNAP benefits returning back to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an exciting segment to our international affairs. Do stay with us as we head for a commercial break.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10, Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Today we are joined in the studio by Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed, while Norman Floyd Barnes joins us on Zoom alongside Agha Mohammad Saleh. At this point of the show, I want to address my viewers regarding Sudan. We know that a huge genocidal act has been claiming the lives of over 500 people in Sudan. The Sudanese defense minister called for a mass popular mobilization against the paramilitary RSF Rapid Support Forces amid deadly fighting in the Darfur and Kordofan regions. Of course, the statements carried in the local media were by Lieutenant General Yassin Ibrahim Yassin described military preparations against the rebel group. We know that the RSF had captured El Fasher on October 26 and carried out massacres of civilians, according to local and international organizations, triggering warnings that the takeover could cement a geographical partition of the war-torn country. I want to get to Mr. Shafat Ahmed, who's in the studio. This is, of course, an act of genocide, but by the RSF towards the South Sudanese people. I want to understand the implications it has on a world stage. Of course, we cannot ignore such act when it comes to international affairs. How do you think this will be handled?
Sudanese crisis is not new. It's been going on for quite a long time. And basically, Sudan is a tribal society. And this sort of thing happens in tribal society at times. But it has prolonged to such an time that it has really destroyed the country. Sudan was one of the countries which was coming up very well. But then because of the internal conflict, the country has landed in deep crisis. Now, as you have said, I saw in the news, if they have succeeded in capturing that area, that means they are effectively dividing the country into two halves, southern Sudan and northern Sudan.
Yes.
So, the clash that is taking place, I don't find any ray of hope in future, because both sides are adamant in their. There is no sign of any compromise on any side, because both the government forces as well as RSF both are holding on to their point of view. They are not agreeing to sit and work on a compromise solution. So, but the sufferer are the people of Sudan, because there have been malnutrition problem, there have been food crisis in Sudan, and Sudan was not a rich country in the past, and its economic condition is further deteriorating. And somehow or other, the African Union OU could not do anything about it. That's a very sad part.
Of course, the international media says that there is one country in the Middle East that seems to be complicit in arming this paramilitary group in southern Sudan. But thank you for your observation regarding South and the Northern Sudan and the rift between the communities there. I want to come to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. My question is going to be a slightly difficult question for you, because it's not just Sudan that we are looking at. The United States administration in very recent times have come to the point where it has blamed another nation in Africa, Nigeria out of all, of some kind of terrorist elements towards Christians. I understand that religion is not the issue here, but there is some kind of issue that ties the United States with Nigeria. And not only so, we see how this current administration in the U.S. has moved away from U.S. aid, an institution that was in charge around worldwide economies to understand humanitarian crises and needs of the people who are suffering humanitarian disasters. So the question to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, where do you think Donald Trump's administration is faltering, especially regarding these issues in Africa?
Yes, thank you for the question. Basically, when the Trump administration decided to dismantle USAID, it created a problem for himself, not knowing that the purpose of USAID is to provide the necessary aid at the ground level to the areas that is high target areas that are basically we look at as potential problems, crisis areas. Sudan was one of them. So by eliminating our commitment to foreign aid, it created a situation where conflict and war will prevail, which means the United States will have to respond either way. So if you don't respond with aid, you have to respond with force and other things that is very costly. So the situation with us and Nigeria is one that Nigeria is a resource-rich country, basically oil. We, as administration, is trying to get into Africa, and more importantly, they're trying to get to resource sources. Nigeria is one of these. So by creating a conundrum between arms, terrorists, and fascist groups, we, administration of the U.S., has a opportunity, creates an opportunity where they can come in and intervene and interfere. So the situation in Sudan is what I call one of our own human creation. By not providing necessary resources and support to these countries, you accelerate the internal conflict, which causes a reaction and which also causes a reason for the U.S. to interfere into that region.
That was definitely quite important. I want to come to a question for Mr. Aga Mohammed Saleh, but it is quite so different. Over this week, we hear that U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney has passed away. It is a breaking news that has taken to storm on international media, and we know that when the post 9/11 era and the war on terror, it is where Mr. Dick Cheney had played a leading role in shaping the U.S. foreign policy and security responses. And of course, he had commented that Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction and the entire rhetoric that spanned from the event of 9/11. And I know that happened on New York City, a thing that we cannot ignore. I want to understand, Mr. Aga Mohammed Saleh, given that there is a Muslim leader who is set to take oath for that city of New York, and of course the passing of Vice President Dick Cheney, how do you think the future stands? Will the people accept such a leader like Mamdani?
Sound.
We are having a sound issue.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Aga, we can hear you. Yes.
In my opinion, the entire campaign was on fear. And the fear was basically a victim card, a religious card, and of course, the popular rhetoric of the free buses and far left agenda, socialist agenda, and very popular narrative that he will arrest Netanyahu, which was beyond a mayoral capacity. So people on the ground, regardless they are Muslim, regardless they are Christians, regardless they are Jewish, they're all, the generation Z accepted this. And this overwhelmingly support for 104,000 volunteers, unprecedented amount of force gathered around him, and they helped him to win this election. Now I believe that the Muslim card or the religious card, these factors should go away and the city have to prosper. He have to establish his courageous will to implement those measures which can lead this city an affordable city, which he made promises. Like every leader make popular promises, make popular narrative, but this is a challenge for Zoran Mamdani. It is not an easy one-day task. His first 100 days will be measured in context what he takes, because the mayor of the New York City has the executive authority, and how he utilized this executive authority in terms of reforms. And this city needs reforms. I believe that for the past 35 years, this city bureaucracy and the machinery and the establishment, they were sleeping, and none of the mayor, ever dare to fix these messes which are looming over the decades since Mayor Giuliani left the city in a very good shape. And after Bloomberg came in to 2001, and he did 3 terms in New York City, but unfortunately, in those times it was Islamophobic, it was fear of 9/11. But at this time, I would say Zoran Mamdani played a card which was Islamophobic versus anti-Semitism, and overwhelmingly he got a support from his home ground, from the people of the New York City, that they don't need to live in the fears. So they thought him as a leader, as a savior, and a protective shield and a guard against President Trump's ICE raid and everything which are ongoing throughout the United States. Now the concern is how this city economy will moves up. He had to do certain things which I have been, as a resident of this city, I believe that being a former member of the community board, the community board system needs to be reformed. And reform, it is a basically cronyism is being prevailed, that the city council member and the federal the borough president appoints these members in the 26 community boards, and each community board is comprising of 51 members. This is basically a kind of a temptation, a position without any benefits, but a position of authority where their beneficiaries and cronies can be benefit the politicians and the policies in these community boards. These community boards needs to be reformed, and I always been a great advocate for these community boards needs to be reformed to develop and infiltrate the benefits of the democracy to the grassroots. So if he is able to do this with his executive authority, reform the community boards, that would be a great initiative. And above all, this New York City, people come from all over the world. Why? They come and live in here. Because this city gave them a protection and a feel, a home, another chosen home. And all these people, those who come from the different parts of the world, they are somehow, their overwhelmingly majority faces the transnational repression which are in the reports, and it is established how he can protect these people, his residents, those who are subject of this transnational repression, what parameters he takes. Because the city of New York has his own small foreign affairs department, a commissioner runs with the United Nations, and they communicate because every other country, every other nation has their consular general offices here and their permanent missions in the United Nations. So this New York City, comprising of the global emergence of the diplomats and United Nations, this city has the authority, this mayor has the authority to implement these things, how to protect their citizens from the transnational repression. And there are other issues which are, this city lacks hospitals, this city lacks public schools. In the city, there are only...
Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to be having a technical glitch towards Zoom, but that was Mr. Aga Mohammad Saleh trying to define how he thinks that Mr. Zoran Mamdani can take leadership of the community there in United States, of course, in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay with us as we head for another short commercial break.
World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet, car lift, sky view rooftop restaurant, all in one. Grand Club Limited, Mirpur 10, টাকা।
কি এমন জিনিস যেটা সব লোকে খায়? ছোটরা খেলে পরে কেঁদে মায়ের কাছে যায়, বৃদ্ধ লোক খেলে পরে মাথায় দেয় হাত, যুবক যুবতীরা খেলে পরে এদিক ওদিক তাকায়।
ছেড়ে দে শয়তান, ছেড়ে দে। দেহ পেলে আমার মন পাবি না, ছেড়ে দে।
কোন ফলের বীজ নেই বলো দেখি দাদা, বলতে না পারলে হবে তুমি গাধা।
মন্দিরা চক্রবর্তী কার সাথে প্রেম করছে?
আমি এখন মা হতে চলেছে।
চিনেছি তোমারে আকারে প্রকারে, দিনের আলো রাতের আধারে।
কোন বাসায় শুধু দুজন থাকে, দরজা জানালা ছাদ কিছুই থাকে না?
পা। পায়ের নুপুর। ছন্দ।
মনে হচ্ছে কি ছু দিয়ে জাদু মন্ত্র। এক্স্যাক্টলি।
পায়রে নুপুরা
অরিক্স স্পেশাল সেলিব্রিটি শো তারকার ঝলক দেখবেন প্রতি শুক্রবার রাত 9:30
ভালোবাসা একবার তুমি বউ কইয়া ডাকো।
হ্যাঁ গো,
আর কত দূর?
আরে আমি তো ফিডের গাড়ির লগে।
তোমার গরু হাঁস মুরগি মাছ তো অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে।
কি কও, অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে? কেডা? হাঁস মুরগি মাছ।
আরে ওগো মতি গতি দেখা মনে হইতাছে এসএফএন ছাড়া কিছুই খাইবো না।
হ্যাঁ গো, এসএফিটের খবর ওরা জানলো কেমনে?
আরে ভালো জিনিসের খবর ছড়াতে কি আর মাইক লাগে? খবর ভাসে বাতাসে বাতাসে।
আরে দেখো,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Today we are joined by Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed in the studio, while we have Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes and Mr. Agha Mohammad Saleh joining us through Zoom. My question in this part of the program will go to Mr. Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed. I want to ask you, given that you have the military expertise and background serving the Bangladeshi armed forces, you see, United States of America has deployed the largest or the most powerful aircraft carrier towards the Caribbean in an attempt to stop these narco-trafficking drug boats that the U.S. administration alleges. I want your comment regarding this matter, especially in the lieu of the fact that it's not just Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro's government that Donald Trump openly criticizes, but it's also a nation like Colombia. The leader of Colombia went to the UNGA and stood in front of the UNGA. I saw him across the street asking the National Guard troops to obey your leaders because they are wrong in their leadership. That is the comments that were made by Colombian president. I think his name is Gustavo Petro, if I'm not wrong. I want to understand how you feel about it, given that you have a military knowledge.
First of all, thank you very much for the question. Coming to the US action that is taking place around Venezuela, Trump is basically trying to
Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro's government that Donald. I think that was a glitch in the system. Please, sir, continue.
Right. So what Mr. Trump is trying to do is to oust Mr. Maduro. But he is very popular in the country. In Venezuela, he is popular. One. Secondly, it is the oil that is the target, because Trump wants to take control of that oil that Venezuela has. It is number one in the world now, in the oil producing. So, if you look at the size of Venezuela and the problem that is there, sending the largest and the strongest fleet, naval fleet there is, I don't know, in Bangladesh you say, Mosha marte kaman dagara, I don't know what is
right.
English.
To kill a fly, you send a cannon, something like
that's
that.
That's right, something like that. So, this is very peculiar. But then I don't take it to be peculiar because Trump has been acting like that. He has been using forces out of proportion in most of the places. And he is trying to show his strength, he's trying to bully people around the world and trying to take credit. And then he is calling himself that he is a Nobel Peace Prize candidate, all those things. Because today in one of the Facebook comment on something has written that oh yes, with the Afghanistan and Pakistan crisis, he said, why can't Trump now solve this problem? He says that he has solved all the problems, so he should solve Pakistan Afghanistan problem also. So it is basically the Mr. Trump's ego that is playing.
Right.
I don't think there is much reason behind sending such forces. And another thing is probably it's sort of saber rattling by USA, trying to tell the people, especially trying to show to China and Russia that USA is not out of the picture and we are still the most powerful military in the world, something like that.
Of course, I understand how that future days, this eternal war, as commented by Nicolas Maduro, how it will fold out. Of course, if it's not Donald Trump, it will definitely be in upcoming U.S. administrations which are going to face the blame of such attacks by the current administration. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to shift the tone of discussion at this moment towards climate change. We know that the COP30 is happening in Belém, Brazil, with major implications around the world, but in the last 1 to 2 weeks, we have 2 different typhoons and hurricanes, regardless of what you can call them, across the world. We have a typhoon Kalmegi, which has claimed the lives of at least 66 people in the Philippines, and nevertheless, we see Hurricane Melissa battering through the Caribbean nations of Jamaica, Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago. My question to Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, I want to understand how you feel that the global climate change is taking a toll on human life, and I do not see the world leaders trying to understand this issue. More or less, they are looking towards military spending than a dialogue for global climate change forums. How do you think about this?
Yes, I appreciate the question. Basically, climate change is something we have to deal with. Mother Nature has a tendency, and it will continue to evolve and change the surface of the earth. We as global leaders, countries of power and influence and impact, must take time and reconsider that the people of the earth needs their help. We have a moral obligation by being on top to help the people who are not at the top. So we know nature will cause these events. The earth is changing, the earth is getting warmer. So we're looking at more of these catastrophic events occurring, and people are suffering from this. We cannot afford to be worried about trade, commerce, and surface wars when we have issues with nature. Nature rules. So we have to understand that we have to commit to helping. Once again, I remember telling you about USAID, by the United States eliminating or curtailing USAID to help these countries to sustain itself and to redevelop. It creates a problem. Well, now we have to use our resources to go in and try to pull and save these people and reconstruct, which is more expensive, if possible. The infrastructures are not there. The infrastructures the social infrastructures need to be in place and developed prior to these events. We know we have AI now, so there's no excuse not knowing how to predict the future. We need to get in these communities and start planning and developing and creating safe situations where they can withstand and help themselves.
That is quite so important for the betterment of humanity and humankind alike. I want to have a last question towards Mr. Agha Mohammad Saleh. He is, of course, of Pakistani descendant who's living in New York. But I want to ask you that earlier on in this year, we've seen how the Swat River has been flooded, claiming numerous lives, and the flooding of Punjab in Pakistan. I understand that Pakistan is also one of those nations, as well as Bangladesh, that is affected the most by climate change. And not only so, every now and then we see the subway stations and the metro stations in New York City be flooded as a result of overwhelming downpour. I want the last comment by Mr. Saleh, how he feels about climate change across the globe.
Actually, thank you very much for asking me this question. Being a chemical engineer who resigned his revoke his profession as a chemical engineer practicing back home in Pakistan and here in United States twice in my lifetime. I believe that we are contributing towards this. And before I come to your question, I would address to the Norman Band's enlightenment that he gave, that AI is here and we must take the AI's advantage. And let me give my 2 cents on this AI. These AI tools and whatever we are producing in terms of tech, do you know that the water is sinking and being utilized heavily? The drinking water source is being consumed in their search engines and it consumes in their power generation system to keep the system cool. So you have no idea how detrimental this exacerbating AI would be in the future for us, and we haven't developed the protocol for this.
Yes.
And we are ongoing onslaught of war, which is capturing the global resources. We are no more fighting wars. We have been creating wars, but these wars are more or less on the resources, water resources, mineral resources of the world. And we are onslaught victim. The 8 billion people are victim of these wars, and we have to address this. Like coming back to your question about Pakistan and Bangladesh, we are the 2 brotherly nations now, and once we were together as one nation, but today I believe that 2 brothers are separated and living in their own homes, but with a common manifest and common interest and common goal for humanity and for the purpose that I would say that East Pakistan, when it was East Pakistan, I knew that East Pakistan was always a victim of floods and nobody paid attention, and your crops and your juice and everything has been destroyed. Now the Pakistan, West Pakistan, this current Pakistan is a victim of these climate changes because the pollution in our neighboring nations, in India, in China, the carbon emission is much higher than the carbon emission altogether in Pakistan and Bangladesh. So we are paying the high price of the global powers surrounding us for this carbon emission, and the which is causing the temperature fall. And we are at the verge of K2 mountains and surrounding by the peaks of the glaciers, and they are melting. And one day we will see a bigger catastrophe that is much drastic, much alarming than a nuclear fusion that we would see, that the climate change is impacting the entire region. And of course, we are losing the water resource, which is a clean water. And this clean water is a life, and that life is necessary for your crops. And we are losing the real food on our soils. We are losing our agriculture. We are losing the food resources.
Yes.
So we are impending in the danger of the conflicts, and we have to address this. We cannot, no one can deny this.
Yes, Mr. Agha Mohammad Saleh, thank you so much for your contributions from New York City. I also want to thank Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes for his views from Washington, D.C. as well, and none other than Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed sir, who had joined us in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close today's discussion by saying today is November 5th, known as Guy Fawkes Day, which is, of course, it commemorates the failure of the gunpowder plot in 1605, when a group of English Catholics, including Guy Fawkes, tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament in London and assassinate King James I. Of course, there is a rhyme that goes, remember, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Thank you so much to our viewers for joining on this program, and I shall see you all tomorrow.